Greetings and welcome to the Now for Later podcast for the week of March 1st, 2020, where we discuss anxiety and depression.
Greetings and salutations, everybody, and welcome to the Now for Later podcast. I'm Liam.
And I'm Michael.
And we got a nice episode for you today.
That we do. I think it's going to be a very uplifting topic. I think everyone will come out of this and they're going to say, I'm rejuvenated. I have a positive outlook on life, and I'm just ready to tackle what the week ahead has for me.
Yeah, I feel like we've had some pretty heavy topics for the past couple of weeks. Yeah?
Yeah.
But they're good. You got to have it, because what's a light topic, without heavy topics? If it's just light topics all the time, then nothing's a light topic.
Exactly.
That little adage right there.
Well, I feel like summertime is pretty light.
Yeah. Well, the last one was finding ourselves.
Yeah, love wasn't that deep.
No.
It was just kind of like...
It wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun, but it wasn't like... let's analyze who we are deep down inside.
Yeah, I don't know how deep we're going to get, because I don't know how much I want to ruin my evening.
Yes.
The night is still young.
That is true. If we were plastered right now, I think that it wouldn't matter, but...
No, we're both
law-abiding citizens.
We are both law-abiding citizens, and we abide by the law. How was your week? What'd you do?
My week is pretty good. Flying through Run Crew, just popping out performances one after the other, and...
Yeah.
Just faking it till I make it, I guess. Just waiting for spring break to be upon us. Midterm season is coming, and...
Midterm? I already have my one midterm.
Yeah.
That went well. It was British literature. And again, that was not really a midterm since there's 2 more exams. It was more like a first of third.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's crazy to me that we're almost halfway. I feel like this semester's flying by.
Yeah. But
I feel like each day feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just in class for so long, doing work for so long. But at the end of the day, it's like, I guess it wasn't that long.
Well, the part of the day that drags for me is Run Crew, because I literally do nothing.
Mm-hmm. And it's so terrible when you're seeing a show you've already seen. Like, we saw it all last week. No, we saw it for a week, and then we just saw it for another week, and we're about to see it for a 3rd week in a row. So it's not entertaining. You need to find your own ways to entertain yourself, but we are not allowed to. We have to be present and occupied with the task at hand.
Yeah. Siobhan.
Yes, the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting play. I didn't personally read the book at all. I don't know. I don't love it.
Father killed Wellington.
That means he can kill me too.
If you know, you know. Hey, do you think we have any new listeners on this episode who are in the show?
I really hope we do. I really think that the topic we're going to discuss today applies to everyone.
Mm-hmm. On Earth.
On Earth. Whether or not they're willing to share it or not. So I think that, if this is an episode someone's going to start listening to, this is the place to start.
I think so too.
Without,
let's just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Anxiety and depression. How fun.
It's the, Shakespeare said jealousy is the green-eyed monster.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of monster anxiety would be, and depression is something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much larger than, I think, any human being.
Yeah.
No, I think everybody has it or will have it at some point in their life.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people have it and they don't know they have it.
Well, I think it's just one of those things where everybody has it. It's just to what degree you have it.
Or how well you can mask it.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody masks it as well. And, it's really, you probably, if you think you don't have it, you have it,
Mm-hmm.
It's like the silent killer. Carbon monoxide.
It is. I feel like it's very suffocating. It, not to be, cheesy, but I think it's very,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like your mind goes 1,000 miles an hour and you have no idea what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like when I was young, I was taught that anxiety is like, oh, you're a little nervous, or you're a little stressed out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like with every passing year, my anxiety gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing I can do to stop it.
No.
And it's become very evident that it's not just that pit of your stomach.
Yeah.
You know, the butterflies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's this beast. It's an emotional roller coaster that, never ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there are some days that are really, really good, where it's like, oh, I got this.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there are other days where it's not. And I feel like it's something that always changes.
Yeah.
And there's no one, like, coping mechanism or anything that
Mm-hmm.
really works for me, at least. One way to, like, ground myself.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's sort of like the whole thing about how I think anxiety and depression do go hand in hand. And I feel like I could be pretty, like, bipolar sometimes, or I can feel like I'm two different people, as even throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm like, I'm loving this, I'm having a good time, or I can be like, I'm feeling anxious, or I can be like, I don't want to do anything, I'm feeling really down in the dumps,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of a generalization because, I feel like depression is just always there.
Yeah.
And it's sort of annoying because I'm in college right now, as you are as well.
That is true.
And we're in some pretty good times, and I feel like depression gets a hold of your mind, and it gives you reasons to not like something, or you might even just want to like something, and there's something in you that won't let you do that.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And I feel like that's the best way to describe it, is like wanting to like something or wanting to get better, but you can't.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a good way to describe the feeling of depression, is the feeling of dread and, like, being in an inescapable position.
Yeah. I feel like it's a very curious thing, because I feel like as anxious as I am, and something I don't do is I don't like to put labels on it, because I know that
Mm-hmm.
and this is what I tell people all the time. It's like, there are people who are like really have depression,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, I'm not going to be throwing that word around to describe myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's denial,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't technically received a diagnosis, despite what I feel. I don't like to throw, especially I know I have anxiety. I don't throw the word depression around,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that some people truly struggle with it,
Mm-hmm.
even though, like, in private, I'd be like, there is a 95% chance I am depressed.
Yeah.
That's a beast that I really don't like to tackle, but I do feel like anxiety in particular, like, is the reason that I am who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, in a way, it makes me anxious to think about getting rid of it or trying to overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
Because my anxiety is kind of like what makes me work so hard.
Yeah.
And it's what makes me, want to do better, or, want to find the solutions to problems, and,
Mm-hmm.
Makes me want to be a good person. But I feel like without it, I'd just be like this, okay, everything's fine, I'm fine, even if the circumstances weren't great, I would accept normal.
Yeah.
Even though currently I strive for the highest quality of work humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because I fear rejection, I fear failure, and, that drives me insane. And I feel like that's definitely like the nervous or stressed part of anxiety, which is truly only a part, as college has taught me.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And again, I think it manifests itself differently in people. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a neurotic person. I'm not, like, in a constant state of worry.
Mm-hmm.
But I just get my mind fixated on something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't get over it.
Yeah.
No matter how hard I try. That's sort of how it affects me, most of the time. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, you could feel it for 5 days in a row. You could feel it, in a certain way. You could obsess over something, and then you could not feel it for a month. And then one day something twangs you the wrong way, and you feel it in a completely different way, and then you're just worried about a different thing. Or what I don't want to say is that it's just I feel like the labels that we put on it,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like depression is sad and anxiety is worried.
Yeah.
Those are really like overgeneralizations of what they really are.
Yeah.
Because I can be happy, but I'm depressed. Like, I feel like out of anything, I am just a depressed person, and I don't, I mean, I've been diagnosed, I guess. I don't know. I took the test and doctors have told me, but I think it's, I think everybody is, coming from someone who has it. Like, everyone's got their stuff that they deal with and their demons and the things that stay with them no matter what. And it's really just your mission to overcome that. And I feel like that's where the anxiety comes in. Whereas you're trying to overcome something, but you're realizing that something is in your way. And anxiety is living in I should have, I could have, I would have, and depression is I can't, or I didn't. And I feel like those are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's no exaggeration when I say I live my life in the shoulda, coulda, woulda scenario. And I feel like college has done that to me by and by. I feel like I've always had anxiety, and I would never say I was depressed. I feel like the first time someone would have caught me saying I'm depressed would have been end of senior year. And not just because of, and it wasn't at all related to sadness for leaving high school, because I knew what that was.
Yeah.
The depression came when it was like, I look back, that's when the shoulda, coulda, woulda came in from high school. But then looking ahead, it's like I lost all motivation, all will to do anything.
Yeah.
I pretty much held myself up in my room most of the summer, and I said, or at least when I was alone, and I was like, I don't want to do this. It's like, I don't think I can do this. College just seemed like such an insurmountable task, and it hit me hard. I mean, I felt like I was just not myself all summer, even into the beginning of school. And it was then when I got here and after I changed my mind about what school I wanted to go to, that made me really anxious that I made the wrong decision.
Again, the should-haves.
Yeah, and it ate away at me, and it still is so evident. I feel like as soon as I stepped foot at college, I became this emotionally drained person. I have not felt genuine happiness in months. I have not felt genuine sadness. I feel like I just don't feel anymore, and that's the worst. I feel like I'd rather go through 5 emotions in a day, as opposed to being completely and totally numb to it.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, what on earth is wrong with me? Or it's like, I should be happy. Or at one point, this made me happy. I feel like I try so hard to, to force a laugh or show people that, I appreciate something, when it's like deep down inside, I know I do. But it's like, in my mind, it just doesn't react. And I don't know how to even describe it. That's one of the things. It's like whenever I write in my journal at the end of the day, I feel like 9 times out of 10, the last 3 words are I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I just wrote a page of nothing. I feel, some days it's like, ooh, that was such a good release. I feel like my worries are gone. They're on paper. I can, do what I please with this. And then a lot of other days are just like, there's something in there that I need to express, and I don't know what it is or how to express it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's pure frustration. That the only way I've been taught to deal with it is coping. But I don't know how to do that. Nothing at all works. It's like, I'm beyond help like that anymore. It has just grown so fast, and it's so inconsistent. The inconsistency is what scares me. It's like, I fear being medicated over something that it will screw me up, because half the time I'm anxious and half the time I'm just numb. And then it's like, so do I really need it? because there are good days and there are bad days, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, there are days where it's just kind of like blah, but it's like I wouldn't classify that as anything.
Yeah.
But it makes it nearly impossible for me to sit there and say, you know, I can't diagnose myself and say this is what the problem is, let me deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
If that was the case, then I wouldn't say I have anxiety.
Yeah.
If I could deal with it on the spot, I'd have no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it can nag me, like you said. You know, it could be a 20-minute thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there, I have a moment, oh shoot, you know, I got all this work to do, and I don't think I'll get it done, you know, I should have done this, you know, to organize myself better, and then,
Yeah.
you know, da-da-da-da-da-da, and then I promptly forget what I was worrying about.
Mm-hmm.
Or I say, that was stupid, why did I need to deal with that? And some days it's, you know, a week long. Just something is not right.
Yeah.
And again, it's not just nervousness. I feel like my mind is just consumed by so many things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things that people have told me that then it kind of just eats away at me. It's like, is that really how people see me? Or is that really who I am to other people?
Mm-hmm.
Or things like that.
Yeah. It's a really weird thing, because I feel like the word happy, that's another thing that sort of gets in the mind of people who are suffering through more prevalent anxiety and depression, is the, like, surmountable, like, journey to happiness, right? And what does
Mhm.
that mean? And I feel like, you know, happy is kind of an inflated word where you picture, you know, smiles and laughing and everything's good, but I think being content, you know, is truly what happiness is a comfortable medium, like a state of mind, and not quite the highest peaks and not quite the lowest lows,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what, you know, I mean, I think that's what I strive for, because I feel like at times I can be, you know, fairly high on life, and most of the time that just comes from, you know, a way that I cope with it is just to, like, pretend to be happy, and then eventually you forget that you're not happy, and then you're just actually happy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. And when it doesn't, you kind of feel like an imposter, but when it does, you kind of forget about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I was really going through a lot, you know, all my life, but during Mamma Mia at the high school, I would just kind of disappear and think a lot and walk around and touch things and, you know, try to, like, touch myself, like, on the inside to be like, you know, what is happening right now? You know, change is a really hard thing to deal with, and it's the one thing you have to deal with in life, and it's the consistency that you can't really go around. And change is often one of the biggest, like, triggers for anxiety and depression, is sort of like a departure from what you know, because we fear the unknown as humans. It's just natural. And although life is always changing, there are points where it is the true ending of a chapter as opposed to the ending of a sentence. And the end of high school is the closing of a chapter, and the starting of college is a brand new unknown. You know, we're going back to these things that we thought we knew in high school, but it is a totally revamped edition to things. And that's just one instance where I found myself in a particularly strange state. I don't really like talking about, like, my feelings too. I feel like I bottle things a lot, you know, and that's something that I do, and for better or for worse, but that's a way that I deal with things. I don't know, how do you feel like, do you ever bottle things, or do you feel it helps you too?
I feel like I bottle things, and I know damn well that you bottle things, and it scares me. If I come back one day and it's like he is just not acting like himself,
Yeah.
and I'm always so afraid to ask,
Yeah.
because it's like, well, no, it's true. Like, I'm really afraid to ask because it's like your struggles and challenges are vastly different than mine.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like in my mind, my challenges and struggles are, you know, pretty petty compared to yours. You know, mine is like the first world problems and whatever else. So I feel like, and I feel so terrible when I bring my problems to other people like you. It's like, honestly, like, I'm just a whining child. Like,
I
I'm hungry,
know.
I have a roof over my head, and, you're the child out in the street, and I'm sitting here like, give me more. And it truly, I hate talking about it because I hate feeling like that.
Mhm.
Like, my problems are so small and so petty, and everyone else's problems around me. But I view it like, I feel like that's true for you in particular, but it's true for a lot of people.
Mhm.
I really, like, in class, there are so many people that are so open about what they're feeling and how they're doing, and I never tell them, how are
Yeah.
you? Good. That's always the answer. I
Yeah.
don't care how terrible my day is.
Mhm.
I don't like to let it show,
Yeah.
at least in public.
Yeah. No, that's
And it's like, because my least favorite question is, are you all right?
yeah.
Is something wrong?
Yeah.
Because then it's like you're kind of, backed into a corner, like,
Yeah.
do I lie and make it very obvious that, and kind of like in their mind blow it out of proportion that something's really wrong?
Mhm.
But I also don't really want people to know necessarily what my struggles are.
Yeah.
Because in a way, like, if I'm giving them my weakness, they can exploit that.
Mhm.
And it's, like, I always want to be able to, like, have the high ground over something.
Mhm.
I don't want them to know my entire life story.
Yeah.
So then, I'll lose every battle after this. But I feel like, but I lived my life bottling. I've never been the person to run around and just spill my guts about what I'm feeling.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm a medium between, bottling and,
Mhm.
I don't let everything go.
Mhm.
I only let the things that are like, okay, these are resolvable issues.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or there will be a solution soon. So I just need to, like, talk myself through it.
Yeah.
And I feel like half the time it's like, I might be talking at you. Like, I might be in conversation with you, but I'm really talking at you, not with you.
Mhm.
I need the words to come out of my mouth
Mhm.
for me to better understand what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
And it's like, I really half the time expect no response from anyone.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, if someone had their headphones on, I could just be talking and talking and talking. It's like, it still helps. Like,
Yeah.
even if they're not, like, comprehending what I'm saying.
Mhm.
But I mean, it really just depends on the situation.
Mhm.
And I feel like, I don't know, and I feel like I've always been in the mindset that, oh, these problems, like, they're not really problems. Even though there are people who would be like, yeah, that's a problem. Like, you should
Yeah.
probably deal with that.
Yeah.
I feel like in my mind, it's like, since that's the norm for me,
Mhm.
like, these problems where it's like, oh, that was pretty predictable, like, I knew that was going to happen,
Mhm.
and I prepared for it, like, to other people, they wouldn't perceive it the same way.
Yeah, I mean, just to say, like, I wouldn't necessarily say that, anyone, like, my problems are more of a problem than yours, because it's, like, a matter of perspective. Like, my problems aren't as bad as a child in, like, Africa,
No.
But I feel like we emotionally perceive them as the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, it's just given your certain, your deck of cards, and that's sort of just how you perceive things is, well, this is my hand, and this is how I see things from my perspective, and he sees his cards the same way that I see mine,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just all we've known.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to, I don't know, I don't think there's, like, any excuse to, like, my problems are worse than yours, and that's part of the reason why, I mean, much to the chagrin of many people, I'm a very, I don't want to say secretive or, like, closed off person, but I kind of am, with a lot of things, because that's just a way that helps me to get over things, because it stresses me out when people, like, I don't ever want people's pity, especially now. It's like, I'm thinking about this episode, and I'm like, I really,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say much, because, like, I don't want to let too much out, but,
Yeah.
and it's like, because I feel like it just makes the situation worse when, you're like, oh, how are you doing? And I'm having a really shitty day, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
Then they try and make it better.
and I, being in a state of, like, receiving pity is kind of like, I don't know, it's not something that helps me. It will just make things worse.
I never seek pity.
No,
I never
I'm-
seek
no.
like people's like sympathy.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just
Well,
saying.
no. I feel like it's, again, I speak just so I can like figure it out for myself.
Yeah, it's like word vomiting, you know? You just
It's-
need to...
Yeah. And I feel like people do, like, they make up problems or like exaggerate their problems
Mhm.
for the sole purpose of pity,
Yeah.
to get attention.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at no point in my life have I really wanted attention, like in any field.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm content being the quiet person that gets their work done and does it well
Mm-hmm.
without getting recognition for it.
Yeah.
To me, like, that's why, like, being backstage was like,
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. Like, my work wasn't being applauded. It was just kind of like, I know I did that. I'm
Mhm.
proud of it. And it'll kind of just fade into the background. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's there, but it's not, like, the primary focus.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is truly how I deal with my emotions. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I really only bring the thing, I'll bring things that'll just kind of float back. I say it to you, it'll kind of like dissipate in minutes.
Yeah.
If I were to bring you like a huge thing, like, here's a big problem,
Yeah.
the world might come to a halt because of this problem,
Mm-hmm.
or like, I just got expelled from UConn,
Oh, God.
that's something that like you wouldn't soon forget.
No.
But if I was like, oh, I got a C on my test,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I know you don't really care that I got a C on my test,
Mm-hmm.
nor that you have any reason to know that. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
again, I just said that because
Mm-hmm.
I needed to make sense of it.
And I mean, again, I feel like that's just like, you're just letting a little bit of air out. That's a great way to deal with things instead of bottling.
Mm-hmm.
All these big problems that you have, you're just letting a little bit of air out every single time, so you don't have the explosion.
Yeah.
Because I mean, bottling doesn't work. I'm not advocating for it. It's what I do, and it's not great. But when eventually you get to a point where you can't fit any more in, and you just get into a really bad place, and that sucks. And for as much as, like, I don't know, in high school or whatever, that I was the person that was kind of like always smiling, always happy, it was always just a mask. And I think that's part of the reason why I like acting, is because it's lying,
Mm.
And I'm not saying I'm a liar, but
You could put yourself
I
in the
get-
shoes of somebody
I
else.
was going to say, living through another person or
Yeah.
a character, I feel like it just came easier to me because I feel like I always, was a character,
Mhm.
and when I go to school, that's when I'm stepping on stage.
Yeah.
When I was not during school, I am a different person. But when I stepped through SHS, I was a actor,
Mhm.
And that's why I like to stay so late, is because I got to pretend and I got to be somebody else, because I didn't necessarily like not acting,
Mhm.
if that makes any sense. And I didn't want to not be on stage, metaphors and stuff, but yeah. Yeah.
I feel like a big struggle with mine is either I am the anxious version of me that's, anxious me is no fun.
Mm-hmm.
I really overthink everything. I really don't make sense when I'm anxious. Like, I will just ramble on, or it's like I find myself, I get really shaky and jittery and like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So I feel like that version of me is very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that that's not the me people are used to. And so in a way, I think I've screwed myself over
Mm-hmm.
because I've kind of put on this facade. I wouldn't say I'm playing a character.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's just kind of like, here's me, but just like the me that I wish I was at home,
Mm-hmm.
or the me that I think people expect, and let me just put that. It was so much easier for me to be able to say to people, like, I'm fine, to make it believable,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed in, just putting my problems behind me and leaving them at the door.
Mm-hmm.
But there were points when it's like, there's a problem that I just can't go all day without thinking about. And that's
Yeah.
when I'd, really mellow out. And again, I hate when people ask if I'm okay.
Mhm.
It's like, there's nothing to be concerned about. I'm not a danger to myself or others. So
Yeah.
I think that, at no point in my life have I been,
No.
and at no point in the future will I be.
Mm.
So it's like, I feel like that's why people feel compelled to ask. But it's like, there's no problem, big or small, that someone can do something about.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a confusing thing. I feel like it's so terrible, the way, like, I lived my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I really regret letting myself do that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, I didn't know better, and I still don't know better.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty miserable person. I feel like at the end, like, this is the test. Like, if at the end of the day, I'm laying there and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do,
Yeah.
then you know that there's a problem. And I feel like a lot of nights, that's how I go to bed.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm beyond, and in my mind, I'm beyond help. And I feel like therapy has never worked for me. It's done nothing for me. Yet I keep going.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I feel like it is like a word vomit.
It is. I feel like my therapist, she's the professional. I think it's reassuring to tell her all this stuff and tell her, like, that's pretty characteristic of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Or for her to say, yeah, like, those are some signs of depression. So it's like, I know that this is valid and that it's like, this is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And not like this, ooh, there's a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you don't know until you feel it, sort of things. But it's a non-biased person who will sit there and listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I don't ever ask for advice because I know I won't take the advice or it won't help.
Yeah.
And that's the worst part is, I know right after or during Thanksgiving break, I spent that Monday and that Tuesday and that Wednesday just in shambles.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do anything productive.
Mm-hmm.
I could hardly get myself motivated to go out in public and just do something for the love of God.
Mm-hmm.
I held myself up in my room. It was just this time of great questioning of, like, what am I doing? Or that's when I was like, I was really jittery, and it's like, I don't know what is happening. Like, I'm just like this wash of different emotions that I can't label.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so frustrating. And that was like the semester worth of bottling up released.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like, I never dumped my whole bottle out.
Mm-hmm.
I dumped the little things.
Yeah.
But then once the big things stay in there long enough, they're bound to release at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I got lucky that it was when I wasn't here. But I mean, that was terrible. And it's like, I know the same thing will happen after this semester's over.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think spring break will be long enough of just, freaking out
Yeah.
to see that happen. But I mean, I don't even know. That's the worst part. Like, I feel like I'd get the appropriate amount of help if I knew what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I talk and I talk and I talk and I get nowhere in describing it. And there's no good analogy. It's like, you just have to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to feel how miserable and in pain I am to get up out of bed and say, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be at home in my own bed with my dog and all the home-cooked meals I could possibly imagine where I have to do nothing.
Yeah.
But no, I press forward.
Mm-hmm.
I am one of 2 people that has showed up without fail to every class.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how come I have these problems?
Mm-hmm.
I go to class every day. I don't let it show. Yet you guys are out here saying, oh, I'm having a bad anxiety day. I'm not going to go to my morning class, but I think I'll go to my afternoon class.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you just didn't want to wake up early.
Yeah.
Because now that I'm feeling kind of hurt, like, okay, these people are doing this. Now I feel like my problems are so insignificant that I should feel ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this whole cycle of, what am I feeling? Is it valid? And is it even comparable to, like, what a person with, like, normal anxiety would feel?
Mm.
Like, if there's a baseline, if there was a scale, where would this fall?
Mm-hmm. feel like it's really hard to quantify things. And that just reminds me of something. I was talking with one of our friends last year, and I said, like, I feel like if you can talk about your problems in public, they're not really problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's kind of like a really, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't really believe that. I feel like people just deal with it differently, but I kind of believe it in a way.
Yeah. If you can flaunt a problem
Then
and you have no shame,
then it's less of a problem than you think. I think that's a better way of saying it.
mm-hmm.
I don't like talking about my problems because if I talked about it, I would get upset, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it would put me in a place where I could not function. And, yeah, I don't know. Because I feel like everyone has their different things. And talking about it to some people, to strangers, helps. And I think that's awesome. It's just not something that I think, you know? And not showing up to class, I feel like that would also not help me because then I would just be thinking about it the whole time.
Yeah.
I like distractions, you know, and escapism.
Yeah.
Because that's what helps me. But if what helps you is skipping class and talking about it to God and everyone, you know,
mm-hmm.
then, like, that's what you need to do, I guess.
And that's the thing where it's like, I've had this all my life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only been recently that I've been, like, I feel like diagnosed is such a precise word.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you'd use the word diagnose for, like, I have a disease that a lab test showed. It's guaranteed that I have it, and, this antibiotic will treat it. I feel like diagnose is such a specific thing. I feel like that word doesn't really apply here.
I think it does. I think that it is, you know, a condition, and it is, like...
It is a condition, but I feel like...
And I mean, it is a chemical imbalance. And
yes.
medication does help that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something, another stigma is, like, sometimes there's literally nothing you can do with words and therapy, and you do need to get on something to change the levels of things in your brain, and that's fine, you know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember there was such a long time where it was like, I just want to be medicated.
Yeah.
Like,
sometimes maybe you might, you know, you don't...
I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I go to therapy once a week. It does nothing. I write in a journal every night. It does nothing. Nothing helps. Words do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, words are the all omnipotent being
Mm-hmm.
of this earthly realm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's really nothing words can't do. Words have failed me.
Mm-hmm.
It blows my mind that that's even possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like just this morning, I was like, I give up. Like, truly, like, this past week, I don't know what happened. Like, I had no control and nothing helped.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't deal with it anymore. And it's like, again, there are like, these are all just, like, generalizations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are problems where it's like, I'm not even going to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
Not because it'll throw me into an episode, it's just like, I don't want people knowing what they are, and
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's like, it's caused me anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I don't want to say what it is doesn't mean I don't have anxiety. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people want the proof.
Yeah.
But it's like, can we just, like, do we need proof that you have cancer to know that you're in pain?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, the stigma of it all. Like, I feel so ashamed to go out in public. And I feel ashamed to both bottle it up and put on a facade and kind of do a disservice to myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel ashamed to express my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never understand why, like, if you're at the grocery store and the cashier's like, oh, how are you? You know, you find everything okay? They're like, I'm terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go, why? And then they tell them their problems. It's like, why does the cashier at the grocery store need to know this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you are way too proud of these problems.
Yeah.
And I don't, again, there's that word again. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's literally impossible. And it's, how can I take such a great idea and put it on paper? Graphically or literally.
Mm-hmm.
But how can I not express this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so mind-blowing. And it's also mind-blowing how I am my own worst enemy.
Yeah.
I'm what controls what I do in the morning. I make a conscious effort to get myself out of bed, put on clothes that make it look like I tried, And there are some mornings where it's like, oh, it's going to be a rough day. But then once I get my clothes on and do my hair and, I step outside and take a breath of fresh air, I feel better. And there are some days where I wake up and then, like, gradually, like, by the time I get to class, it's like, ooh. Like, that's when you really know, like, it's going to be a rough one.
I think the thing about anxiety and depression is life is bad. Like, life sucks, right? And I think the pursuit of trying to be happy is what will inevitably cause you to feel these things. And I think life is not about being in a constant state of happiness, but rather by finding things that distract you and sort of make you feel good in the present moment, and sort of take your mind off of being anxious or depressed. And it could be like writing a poem or playing video games or just the sound of the birds in the morning, but they're all things that sort of are just little reminders that, hey, I'm alive, and you should not take any moment for granted despite what you're feeling in your head right now. And it is hard, and everyone has it hard. I think the richest man on Wall Street and the poorest of the poor, although they are two different people, they both experience sadness to some degree.
And I feel like I don't really know. I feel like anxiety is something that it's a part of all of us. It just doesn't necessarily impact all of us.
Yeah.
I feel like being a person from whom it has impacted, it really, I feel like it's just thrown a monkey wrench in my life. I feel like it dictates who I am. It tells me what choices to make. And it kind of makes me, in a way, fear life itself.
Yeah.
I don't want, again, change. I don't want, this to change. Or I don't want, that to change. Or I don't want to do this because it's not in my normal routine. And it's I don't think I can go through life like that. I love a routine. I think there's a place in your everyday life for a routine. Example, when you wake up every morning or right before you go to bed. That's a good place to have a routine. But everything in between, if you have a routine beyond getting yourself to work in the morning, I think you're not doing yourself any favors. I think that you need the variety, but I fear the variety. And I know I'll be a person with the routine who then gets nothing done or doesn't do anything fun, or it's I'm there working till 11 o'clock because I have to follow this routine or else I think something is going to go to crap. And I think it's this weird paradox of you need the routine to function, but the routine also hurts you more than it helps you. The routine enables the anxiety.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard, or has anyone ever told you just set aside a time to be anxious?
Yeah.
Push off the anxiety until from 3 to 4 in the afternoon, I'm going to be anxious and then I'm done.
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah.
If it's coming, it's coming. There is nothing
stopping
that can stop it. And it's that would also be such a terrible hour.
Yeah.
If it was just here's my raw anxiety, just straight up.
And then you're going to be leading up to it, I would be
I'm anxious about the anxiety.
I'm going to feel so bad. It's going to ruin me for the rest of the night. I just know it. And then your whole day is ruined. Yeah. No, I've heard that one before.
And I feel it's I can have a good day with a bad bit of anxiety.
Yeah.
I feel that was literally my day today. I feel I woke up, I was oh, I gotta go to church. I usually look forward to church. I think it's a good hour for me to not have to worry about anything or, just kind of sit there and listen. I don't have to be the one doing the talking. And I got there, and it was just, I was very anxious, and I don't know why. I was just in this panic, and I was like, I just got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I were to, that's something that I feel like I classify my anxiety with, like, I just need to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I have said that so many times, where, like, I'll be the first one out of the class at 12 o'clock when it's over.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care how much work, or, like, if the professor's like, all right, you have work time, like, I can't sit here anymore. Like, I will literally go insane.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what church was this morning. But I feel like I had, you know, and then I got back, and it was like, ooh, this is really terrible, and I'm really, you know, nothing's helping.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I sat down and shut up for an hour, and then, you know, that kind of helped, and now I feel like after that it was a good day.
Mm-hmm.
But now I know when I go to write later, it'll be like, since I'm writing whilst not anxious,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to underscore the anxiety.
Yeah.
Even though in the moment, you're like, ooh, that this is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just need an escape.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, like, whenever I go, or here's an example, your car starts making a weird noise, and then you bring it to the shop, and the noise stops,
Yeah.
and you're like, I swear it was making noise, and they're like, well, we can't hear it, so we can't diagnose it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's me when I go to therapy.
Yeah. No,
I know, like, I know when my next appointment is, so I know I'm not going to be anxious when I go there.
Yeah.
So then I can't really quantify my emotions accurately.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it sounds like I'm faking, or it sounds like I'm blowing it out of proportion,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's kind of the opposite, like, this isn't doing it justice.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. It's like, how are you feeling, you know, right now? Right now I'm fine, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't really, it's hard to remember what I was feeling weird about before, because it could have been everything, and it could have been one little thing, and it's hard to, unless I'm writing it down, you know, as it's
Mhm.
happening, I can't really put it into words, but it's, I don't know. I feel like you saying you have to get up and leave, that's a good thing, because, like, sometimes I just need to, I like going out and driving, and just, or really late at night or early in the morning, and just going out on the road and being by myself. That's another thing I found is, like, I feel like I'm never truly by myself unless I'm in my car, like, just driving somewhere. And so that's sort of become like a little slice of time that, you know, you sort of think inwards, or, you know, sometimes you listen to music and sometimes it's just silence, and sometimes you're talking, you know, to yourself and talking through things, you know. I feel like that's the only time I talk about things is when I'm by myself.
Yeah.
Or when my, you know, phone is sending all this information to the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, I mean, I don't know, like, even talking now, I'm starting to feel a little weird, and I'm probably gonna go for a walk, you know, tonight, and just sort of think about things, and I don't know.
This is very frustrating for me, because I don't know how to put into words, like, what I felt or what I'm feeling.
Yeah, you can't.
And I feel like the frustration's the worst part.
Yeah.
I will say, I think fresh air is always the answer for me. You know, I feel like I hate my car, so why would I drive it?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm grateful for my car. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's just, if it was wrecked, I wouldn't be devastated.
Yeah.
But I feel like, in some ways, being at college has helped my anxiety since I walk everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when everyone's like, why don't you take a bus? It's like, it's so calming to walk. You know, sometimes I walk with my AirPods, and sometimes I don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, what do I need right now?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the music helps the walk go by a little faster. But I feel like the silence, it's like a 15-minute walk, so I feel like that's a good, solid 15 minutes of just alone time.
Mm-hmm.
And it really helps. Or, like, I love in the summer being able to do yard work.
Mm.
You know, I think, you know, fresh air and then, like, doing manual labor helps.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just something to, like, take your mind off of it.
Endorphins and such.
And there's nothing like a good summer evening.
Yeah.
You know, it's quiet, or you hear the bugs or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can see the stars, and you know, the air is kind of crisp,
Mm-hmm. But not cold.
but not cold. or I know like when I was in Florida, it was my father left for a day, and I just loved walking back to the hotel, and it was like it was slightly warm, but it was light jacket weather, so it was physically comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and it was quiet, and I'm like, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing. I feel like anxiety manifests, for me at least, in a lot of like physical symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll know I'm getting anxious before my mind
Mm-hmm.
catches up.
Yeah.
And I feel like my stomach can just be in knots, or a lot of times like my legs will start to hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, or I'll get like a splitting headache, and I know that like I'm about to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And the leg pain I didn't figure out until like a year ago.
Really?
My legs always used to hurt, specifically my right one. But it's like, for a while I was like, oh, it must be like growing pains. But it's like, now that like I know what growing pains are, like this isn't that.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is just a weird, like, it's kind of sore, but it's kind of not. And it definitely doesn't feel like it's like in my bone. It's just like my whole leg is just like, ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I have like a really bad back, and that's like where I carry a bunch of my stress, is like in my shoulders and my lower back. But I can totally like tell it's like you said, it's like the old people with hip replacements when they're like, oh, a rainstorm's coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when my back or my stomach starts to hurt, I'm like, oh god.
Yeah. And it's like I feel like when if you've ever watched like one of those videos where it's like the FBI like analyzes like body language,
Mm-hmm.
they're like crossing your arms as like a form of like self-embracing.
Yeah.
I feel like the same goes for me. Like I have very terrible posture.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm perfectly capable of standing upright and my shoulders out and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I feel like I am more calm when I kind of like form myself into a little ball, or like if I cross my legs and I'm sitting, and people hate when I cross my legs. They're like, it's so feminine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, that's my way of, that is like my arm crossing.
Mm-hmm.
It's my way of like embracing myself and calming myself down and feeling like I'm here and comfortable.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like whenever I'm stressing out and stuff, like, I constrict, I feel my muscles tighten up, and it is kind of a way of sort of calming you down, It's just your muscles sort of trying to, tense everything and sort of take your mind off of it. It's like restricting the flow of blood to your brain a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know when I'm getting anxious for that same reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the top reason why, if I get really, really anxious about something, and then whatever was making me anxious passes very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
everything just releases. And that's when I start to feel woozy. I've passed out before. That's when, like, I like a beeline to the bathroom.
Yeah.
TMI, but it's like, that's just, my body is just like, it took me so long to like reach that point, but then it's like instantaneous. It's like, all right, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what were you worrying about?
Yeah.
And in a way, it's like, I don't even remember. Like, I feel like my mind like deletes that memory.
Yeah. Go on the recently deleted and deletes it again.
Yeah.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. So what else about anxiety? I feel like this could definitely be a part 2. This episode, because it is something that changes, and it's not always the same thing. I think we've covered quite a bit,
We have.
And it is a hard conversation. I mean, I'm having a hard time kind of talking about it. I know you probably are too. And it's, you kind of don't know what to say. Like, I feel like we're the therapist right now, and they're asking how everything is, and we're like,
Fine?
yeah.
Question mark?
Yeah. It's a strange topic, but I feel like it's a really necessary one for us to do.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like it's something that I feel like it's essential that people know about me.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the person at the grocery store, but it's like, if we're going to be close friends, it's like I act this way because of my anxiety.
Yeah.
You know, I do certain things to prevent becoming more anxious than I already am.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, ooh, that's kind of odd. You know,
Yeah.
or like he's acting a little odd.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like all self-preservation stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because I know after all these years things that help.
Yeah.
Nothing cures it, nothing stops it, but it can lessen the effects if you catch it beforehand.
Yeah.
When you're in it, there's nothing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's like it could be a small thing or a long thing, and you never know. It's so unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the hard part.
Yeah, and it's hard because some people are really open with it, and that's awesome. But I can't wear it as like a badge, and
No.
it's not a character trait for me. It's like a flaw, and that's the way I see it. For me personally, and it's hard for me to talk about it, and I don't like talking about it. I don't even talk about the things that are really getting me down with my therapist.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much stuff that I don't tell my therapist because it's like I don't want you to judge me for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, yes, you're unbiased, but I feel like we formed like such a good relationship
Mm-hmm.
that it's like I don't want you to think less of me.
Yeah.
And it's like it's hard, and the last thing I want is to leave therapy more anxious than before because now I'm like, well, now this person.
Yeah, I'm
Now this person has all this information about me that it's like I'm still grappling with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, that defeats the point of therapy, but at the same time, I don't really know.
Life is a matter of perspective. You can go into life saying, woe is me, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, and you can wallow in those feelings, or you can, on the other extreme end, you can not feel anything, which is also not the thing, because I feel like I'm always saying to myself, soldiers fighting wars, Liam, suck it up,
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good way to live either, and I feel like you need to live in the middle. Like everything, moderation is really the answer,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to learn to accept what you have and to deal with it, but not to exaggerate it to the point of making it worse.
Yeah, soldiers fighting wars. That's good. That's another reason I fear telling people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, again, my problems are so... In my mind, my problems are so small
Mm-hmm.
compared to what everyone else is going through. Even though I don't really know what they're going through,
Mm-hmm.
it's just this instinct that it's like, Michael, you're being stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though, like, to me, it's like, it's earth-shattering. Like,
Yeah.
my world is crumbling.
Yeah. And that's
Because
like,
I can't even string together a coherent thought, let alone write a sentence that describes it.
and that really isn't any less of a problem than, what people face, but you get in your head and you say that it is.
Mm-hmm. We're our own worst enemies.
Mm-hmm.
We have the power to change ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
but our body instinctually tries to destroy itself. To tear down who you are.
Mm.
It's a responsibility to maintain who you are at your core.
Mm-hmm.
To be a genuine person.
Yes.
And I feel like there's a choice to make.
Yeah.
Are you genuinely an anxious person?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the you want people to see? Or are you genuinely the nice person?
Mm-hmm.
You can be both, and you can be neither.
Mm-hmm.
Let people see the nice version of you,
Mm-hmm.
the sane version of you,
Mm-hmm.
and keep the anxiety portion to yourself. Because you're being genuine to part of you, but you're entitled to having secrets, or you're entitled to having a personal life, or
Yeah.
things that are meant for you and you only. I feel like private sounds kind of sketchy.
Well, I mean, private is...
Or not private, what word was it? Secret.
Mm-hmm.
Secret sounds kind of sketchy. Private's the right word.
Yeah, again, I feel like I do kind of keep things private, and that can come across as being secretive or sketchy, and I really don't want to, like, offend anyone by not, telling them my life or revealing information about myself, and again, people listening, I'm not, this is just, it helps me, to separate things. I have a distinct separation of church and state in my life, and it just helps. And you are right. You are entitled to privacy, and you shouldn't feel bad about that.
That is true. It is true because I said it.
And again, there you can get to a point of you are too comfortable with it, you know, and you are like, I'm the face of anxiety and depression, and it's like, again, do whatever makes you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, these aren't really good things that, you know, not saying you should be proud of them, you know?
No.
They make me feel terrible, and I'm sure they make you feel terrible too, so you shouldn't, like...
Yeah.
And again, there's that word, shouldn't.
Yeah. And it's like, again, I don't want people pitying me.
Mm-hmm.
And I genuinely struggle to find the meaning of any of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why do I face this? Why is this the way I have to live my life?
Yeah.
And I feel like with every passing day, like, I just want it to be over.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get back in bed where nothing matters.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing can hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, metaphorically.
Yeah.
When I'm in bed. And I feel like again, don't pity me, I'm a miserable person.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just constantly nagging. It's constant. There's always something to be anxious about.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with every living day, like I'm developing more signs of depression.
Mm-hmm.
As, you know, as reluctant as I am to admit that.
Mm-hmm.
Because another thing, it's like I feel like I have the mindset of, oh, that can't happen to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like with any other disease, it's like, oh, I drink, I couldn't get liver disease.
Mm-hmm.
That would never happen to me. I play my cards too safe.
Again, like how we talked about in the college episode, like, oh, I'm the 12% admitted.
Yeah.
I'm the percent that doesn't get affected by this.
Yeah, like that's how I view my anxiety and depression, that there's no way that I actually have it. Like, I'm genuinely in denial, which is not helping me whatsoever. Because it's like I see people with anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, now that I think about it, most of those people I think are kind of blowing it out of proportion for pity.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you really think about the issue they're complaining about, and they start the sentence with, I got a B on my test and I'm not going to get my 4.0 anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start, like, word vomiting on you about, you know, how miserable they are. It's like, okay, what's the problem? You got a B on a test.
Mm-hmm.
That's no reason to, you know, freak out.
Yeah. I mean, that could just be them, like, again, letting a little bit of it out.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but I can see, you know. And it is kind of frustrating at times where I just want to be like, and there have been times where I bite my tongue in front of people that are, like, you know, I don't want to say complaining, but for all intents and purposes, you know, going on about something, and I'm like, you know, what I'm going through, you know, is, you know, different than that. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying, like, but then I'm like, I don't know what this person's going through. They could be going through something 10 times worse than me, and this is just one thing that they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of where I catch myself, where I'm like, again, soldiers fighting wars, Liam.
And I feel like, at least true for me, I have a great support system. I feel like I'm more open with my friends than I am with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in a way that helps.
Yeah.
Because I feel like both my parents, when they were younger, went through this,
mm-hmm.
so they're experienced, but it's like, I know what they're going to say is, it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, that doesn't help me right now.
It never helps.
It didn't get better so you were 30.
Yeah.
That's another 10 years for me.
Yeah.
You know, that's not what I want to hear. So I feel like with people who are currently going through it, it really helps. And it's like, I feel more comfortable talking about it because the problems that I have are definitely 21st century problems,
mm-hmm.
which, like, my parents didn't have, so they can't be sympathetic towards them.
Yeah.
So it's all like, and it's like, don't bring it to my grandparents, like, they're from the post-war era. You know, when...
Yeah, I was going to say...
When, you know, you could smoke anywhere, and, you know, to think that my grandparents were born before, you know, when segregation was still a thing,
mm-hmm.
it's like, boy, have times changed, and boy, are these problems not at all what they're equipped to deal with.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I mean, I think about it, and it's like, why am I complaining, you know? And it's like, you have the right to complain about things and feel certain ways. And they're your feelings, and you you shouldn't feel guilty about them, and you
Mhm.
shouldn't feel like you can't deal with them or that they're not valid feelings.
Mhm.
It's just you have to know when to deal with those things, and they can't be a constant sort of dictator in your life,
Yeah.
because then you're not really living.
No. That is very true.
Indeed. Well, do you have anything else to say right now about this? I did not write a Mikey G live because it's not really
No, that'd be a terrible Mikey G live.
Yeah, that'd be just depressing.
That'd just be a bunch. Give me an adjective. Sad.
Yeah.
Give me an adjective. Or what's a verb?
Crying.
Yeah. Jumping. In front of a noun, bus.
Yeah.
So
I'm not saying that I want to. I'm just saying what if.
I think the TikTok of the week, a girl was like, "You don't know how hard it is to get hit by an on-campus bus for at least one semester of free tuition. They will avoid you at all costs."
Oh, that's too funny. Well, yeah, I mean, again, I'm sure this will be a part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Continuation of it. And we apologize if this puts you in a weird mood. But it's a good thing to talk about. And you can't avoid talking about some things because then you'll never get better and you're being unhealthy. And stop that,
Yes, become the best version of yourself.
Yeah, because that's all you can really ask for. Well, do you have anything else to say?
I think that does it for me.
Yeah, well, if you're feeling this way, there's help out there. Don't feel like you're the only one going through this, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how dark and long it seems. Talk to people, and just never feel alone.
Don't do it.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Again, this has been another episode of the Now for Later podcast. We thank you, as always, for listening. We love you guys. Thank you for listening to us this fine evening. And we hope you're doing well.
So long.
So long.